listening to Tough Tiger Talk Flash Report.
All right, shout out to the fam. Appreciate y'all joining us for another excellent episode of Tough Tiger Talk. Y'all, please feel free to press on the like button, hit the subscribe and share buttons as we talk in Tough Tiger Talk on this Sunday afternoon. Big ups to the fam. Appreciate y'all, man. Haven't hollered at y'all in a little bit, but I wanted to go over this article right here about LSU heading to the 2024 season. Now, we've been doing Tough Tiger Talk for a while now. What's really interesting about LSU this year, that a lot of the diehard believe that last year was the title hopes that all LSU family members wanted to see. That was the year in which we were supposed to capture the national title, the national championship. And the defense was so horrific that it could not help our top-notch, top nation leading, top in the nation offense, quarterback, all of the stuff, all of the fantastic talent that we had that are all in the NFL right now. A lot of people believe that last year was the year if we could have put a damn defense together. And you're right. It should have been a year for LSU, but listen, there's still a lot to be positive for in 2024 with Jaden Daniels, Malik Neighbors, Thomas, and others headed toward the draft. Well, I mean, into the NFL, actually, to the draft, then to the NFL, and they're all drafted now. What does the 2024 LSU team look like, and can they compete at such a higher level? It'll be pretty unfair to kind of heap that kind of pressure on the LSU 2024 squad with a new quarterback coming in. But the big question is, what could Garrett Nussmeier do with the talent that's there in LSU, and do they have enough to compete? And there's also a thought process that LSU in 2025, with all of the talent, one of the top recruiting classes in the nation, what they'll be looking like in 2025. So a lot of people kind of looking past 2024 and saying, man, that Tiger squad in 25 with all of those guys, they are going to be a force to look out for. But anyway, nonetheless, 2024, shout out to Athlon Sports as they're doing their Tiger preview. And I thought I'll cover with you guys here. Of course, we know every year I always buy my Athlon magazine, man, and check out not only about the pro game, but also go into college game. Always does that. Always do that, man. Y'all get order y'all's as soon as you can. Go to Athlon Sports and order yours as soon as you can. But anyway, let's get into this article right here as they kind of talk about LSU. And this is what they had to say. In year 3, Coach Brian Kelly tenure, it's time for the Tigers to take a step forward, and that means securing a spot in the expanded college football playoff. Getting there depends on 2 key things: finding enough of a ground game to pair with what should be a potent passing game, and improving the defense enough to be at least average. Answer those 2 questions, and the Tigers are top 12 material for sure. Do you agree about that? We know that one of our top running backs that entered the transfer portal decided to come back. So that is a positive. That's something that just happened. But anyway, let's look into the season preview, and we're going to talk about LSU's offense for 2024 because, that's a big question mark. Previewing the offense for the 2024 Tigers. Massive change at the top for college football's top offense in 2023. Garrett Nussmeier takes over at quarterback for the Heisman Trophy winner, Jaden Daniels. There's also a new play caller in Joe Sloan, not to mention the coaches change. A lot of coaches stuff going on. Nussmeier started LSU's ReliaQuest Bowl win over Wisconsin. He threw for almost 400 yards and led the Tigers to a 98-yard game-winning drive. While mobile, Nussmeier will be a classic pocket passer and not the 1,000-yard rusher Daniel was, no doubt about it. But Garrett Nussmeier, Mr. Excitement, Mr. Lightning in the bottle, has the big arm, scrambles around, makes plays. We'll love to see what LSU looks like under his tutelage. We'll get an opportunity. The biggest task for LSU's offense is building a running game around budding star Caleb Jackson, just a bowling ball with legs, veteran Josh Williams, and a host of newcomers. Head coach Brian Kelly believes that Kyron Lacey, who spent the 2023 apprenticeship at the swift feet of Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas, is poised for a breakout season. A lot of people have Kyron Lacey on their list. Last year, Kyron Lacey did improve. He was a little bit too inconsistent, but with him being one of the top guys, what does Kyron Lacy does. We've seen some inconsistency there, but Kyron, the stage is set for him to have a big year, right? So anyway, let's keep it going there. Is also, he's posed for a breakout. Also, watch for Chris Hilton Jr., Aaron Anderson, and transfer C.J. Daniels from Liberty and Xavier Thomas from Mississippi State. Expect tight end Mason Taylor to be a big part of LSU's short passing game to aid the rushing attack as he matures. So they do have weapons there. The offensive line may be the strength of the team. It is booked in by the juniors Will Campbell and Emory Jones Jr. at the tackle spots, and the only question mark there is the redshirt freshman DJ Chester taking over at the center position, which early on, a lot of people say that DJ Chester is doing okay. So can he continue that process moving forward? So those are some of the big things. We talk about the fact that LSU with Garrett Nussmeier there, they do have a good offensive line. They do have a good, strong running attack. Like we talked about before, the wide receivers are there. How good can they be? And then we start talking really about the defense. The defense really let us down last year. Can they improve? Coach Kelly fired coordinator Matt House and his assistants after the Tigers allowed a woeful 416.6 yards and 28 points per game in 2023. Blake Baker, formerly at Missouri, is now tasked with making LSU's defense respectable, if not great. He was a terrific centerpiece to work with in linebacker Harold Perkins Jr., who in a controversial move returns to inside linebacker, where he was somewhat ineffective last season. He starts alongside of Greg Penn III and a steady presence. He was a steady presence and with 89 tackles back in 23. You got Penn, you have Harold Perkins Jr., who they expecting to take the leap. And of course, we know like them bringing in all these different changes with Blake Baker and other guys on defense. Let me tell you something. LSU can't do any worse than what they did last year. They have to improve, even if it's a top 80 defense. They can't do any worse than what they were last year. Now, the defense will probably only go as far as linemen take it. Now, the tackle Jacoby and Guillory and Savion Jones have to shine, though Kelly's staff frantically sought to build depth through the portal. The secondary at least has experience led by Major Burns, who had 93 tackles at the star position. Now, this is the thing. This is the key point that we'll start talking about when you talk about LSU's defense, because I think that's the biggest thing. We think the offense has enough to be competitive, but does the defense have enough pieces in place to help it improve? Now, we know all from a coaching staff, they've done a wonderful job in assembling and spent a lot of money putting some really good coaches together on defense. But can the defense stop anybody? And of course, like we said, they try to work the transfer portal and find talent to come in and help. Now, they did get a couple of guys there, but is it enough to help LSU in 2024 stop the run? That's a big part about it. Did they do enough? A lot of people don't feel like they did enough. And Coach Kelly made it a point of emphasis to add talent, interiorly speaking, to beef up the inside there. Did they do enough? We shall see. All right, and of course, previewing LSU specialists for 2024, Damian Ramos returns after leading the FBS in extra points made in attempts and making 12 of 15 in field goal tries. Punter Peyton Todd's next collegiate boot will be his first. Kelly is emphasizing the return game with Thomas handling most of the duties. And they say and the LSU will start with a national ranking of 11 when the preseason polls are coming out. So there you go right now. Like I said, the 2024 college football previews are available. Get yours at athlonsports.com, man. Get yours. But listen, what do you guys think about the preview right here for LSU? Do you think LSU competes for a national championship in this upcoming year? Because a lot of people want to, they were asking the question, Q, what do you think? Do LSU have enough offense? Do they have enough defense to compete at the highest levels? And we know the SEC is taking a different approach here. They look a lot different. Remember, Oklahoma and also Texas enters the SEC. With all of the stuff that's going on with LSU, we see all of the change that happened to the SEC with the new teams coming into it, Texas and Oklahoma coming into the SEC this year. We're anticipating a lot of interesting football with divisions, no more divisions. It'll be straight out. It'll be interesting to see how things end up. And before we go, let's take a look at the depth chart, should we, family? Let's take a look at the depth chart right here for LSU. As you can see, going into this thing is that this is the unofficial depth chart for LSU. So you can see from the quarterback level, you can see Garrett Nussmeier AJ Swan and Ricky Collins hit the quarterback level. Then we go running backs, Josh Williams, Caleb Jackson, and Durham. Um, we also know that the running back situation will get a boost by the fact, as you could tell, LSU running back John Emery Jr. returns to the fold. So that was a big one after a flirtation with the transfer portal. Getting John Emery to go back to come back to LSU, which is a big get because he'll then compete with Josh Williams and with Caleb Jackson to fortify the LSU running attack. So once again, we'll be very strong there. And then, of course, you look at the wide receiver core where you see guys like C.J. Daniels, who unofficially they have C.J. Daniels laid out like he's the top guy right there at the X position. C.J. Daniels, Xavier Thomas, and Karen Lacey as wide receivers. Also, not to mention Chris Hilton Jr., Shelton Sampson Jr., Aaron Henderson, who came over from Alabama, and Kyle Parker. Then you go to the tight end set. Mason Taylor returns right there as a key focus for LSU's tight end position, who could block and catch and is a red zone force. Mac Markway is there, and then Kyronium Pimpton. So Kai Pimpton is there as well from the third tight end position. Of course, one of the most important parts of LSU is the offensive line. Will Campbell, you can see that borderline behind him as a backup. Garrett Dellinger at the left guard position. DJ Chester, who people had questions about, but I'm hearing that he's actually doing pretty decently. Miles Frazier and Emory Jones Jr., which could be one of the strongest units because that, even though we know Garrett Nussmeier comes into it, you need a strong offensive line. LSU has it. They have a very strong running attack. We know we have forces at the wide receiver core, and it depends on how everything comes together from an offensive standpoint. I don't think we'll be better than what we were last year because that you don't see that type of stuff often, but I think we'll be very good in the SEC and in college sports. And of course, if you go to the defenses, where we've really been having our look at, you see Savion Jones there, Jacoby Guillory, and then Jalen Lee at the defensive tackle position. And you kind of look behind those guys, Paris Shan, Sean Washington, Gabriel Rayford, Kimo McAnally, you see Jalen Thomas and Dominic McKinley. So that's some of the guys, and there are others that'll be tasked with helping LSU up front stop the run. Then, of course, you look at the rest of the guys there at the jack position. You see Swinson, behind him is Womack and Jackson Howard as a reserve. And then the linebackers, you get into the linebackers, you see Harold Perkins Jr. and Greg Penn. And then Weeks will get an opportunity to get out there and see what he can do at times. Then the secondary, which really struggled last year for LSU. How does it look? Well, time will tell. We have both of our cornerbacks, Ashton Stamps and Zy Alexander, stepping in there. Safeties will be Major Burns and Jordan Gilbert. The nickelback, will be Sage Ryan, who returns. And of course, behind those guys, we have good depth and Javion Torvano, Kyron Jackson, Jordan Allen, J.K. Johnson, Jare Brown, and Austin Alsbury. So this is some of the stuff that we'll be looking at. How good are these guys going to be? So that's the big task. A lot of turnover in terms of defensive coaches, include new defensive coordinator, new defensive line coach, secondary, everything. A lot of new change there. How can they get these guys on code? And like I said, I think this defense, and you can't do any worse than what LSU's defense did last year. So I think just by understanding what the new change, and there'll be an emphasis and attention to detail approach on defense. And I think the LSU's defense, even though I don't think it'll be one of the tops in the country, I still think it'll be salvageable enough to keep LSU in most games against stiff competition. And of course, then you look at the special teams. We talked about it with kicker Damian Rayos, Peyton Todd there, kick returner Nathan Dilbert, Slade Roy is the long snapper, and then you see kick returner Xavier Thomas will be tasked to handle many of those duties. You might see Javian Nicholas and Caleb Jackson at times. So like I said, there's a lot going on here, man, for LSU, and this is the unofficial depth chart going into the team, going into the squad moving forward. So what do you guys think? This is a part of the show, and I turn it over to you guys, and let me know how you guys feel. How do you feel about LSU coming into this next year? Do you think the Tigers can improve? Do you think the Tigers can get back on track, defensively speaking, and have a big year? Y'all let me know in the chat. What y'all think about LSU. What are your pluses and minuses? Do you think LSU can contend for a title this year? Y'all let me know in the description section, in the comment section below. So with that being said, I'm gonna get out on that. Listen, I appreciate each and every last one of y'all for tuning in this episode of Tough Tiger Talk. Please feel free to hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and I'll holler at you on the next one. Much love and go